200 days it has now been, or at least 200 videos in this series. And because these shorts are structured in a way where I kind of name them based on how many there's been rather than the actual day of progress, it's more so that there's been 200 shorts than 200 days in specific. But the actual starting date was December 22nd, 2024. And I just remember sitting there working on stuff, 90% sure it was character designs, but it very well could have been the screenplay as well. And realizing, wow, if I want any chance of making this a reality, I'm going to need a lot of other people at least watching it, but especially for some of the stuff that I can't do. And so I decided, hey, might as well start posting a little bit about it, about what I'm doing. I've seen plenty of other people at that time just posting stuff about what they're working on or in progress stuff, and I was like, hey, maybe that'll be a good idea. And so I began. Made a very solid introductory video. When it comes to explanation, of course, the video is super rudimentary, but it does give a lot of information about what I'm trying to do. And then I ended up turning that into a short and realizing, wow, double opportunity. I could do something daily here where I do something small, almost as an update. And then the original idea was to do weekly or at least monthly long form, longer updates, but that never really ended up becoming a reality. The first few days were pretty much specifically focused on just completing the screenplay and trying to get that done. I think I had already gotten a solid draft started at that point. Either that or I was still building it up and I was like halfway through maybe. But eventually I was able to finish that up, get some initial concept art down. I already had actually had some progress on even this first episode in terms of like the test animations and stuff from before, and even a scene that I wanted to include that I had animated pretty much fully just because I wanted to test out the new program that I was using at the time, Clip Studio Paint. It's actually become my main one that I use for everything now, at least animations, backgrounds, and then I put it into After Effects for compositing. But eventually I was finally able to move into storyboards. That was where things got a little bit more exciting because I was able to actually take the screenplay that I'd written out and visualize it for the first time, and this took way longer than I expected it to, or that it really should have. I think in total it was about from January to around May that it took to get the original sketch ones down, and even to this day I'm still going back and cleaning them up before we do the animation just because they're really not good enough. But around day 10 I started looking for other people to actually help. There were people who had already reached out in the comment section in specific just saying, hey, do you want help with this little thing or this little thing? And I didn't really have a way for them to actually get in touch or for me to get in touch with them. And so I started talking about the email and just how people could reach out through that. And that was the very first thing. And I actually did have some people who reached out through that. The very first person on this team to reach out, Witchmations, actually did it in this really early stage. And for a while after that, it was kind of just a mix between storyboards, finishing up character designs, and just cleaning everything up, trying to make a really solid plan for the episode before I actually started work on anything. At this point as well, it's also important to mention that I had kept it very consistent, uploading every single day, not really missing any. One thing I had done at the time that I make sure to completely avoid now is there would be some where I would post them essentially in the same day. So it would be one where I'd post it at like 3 in the morning, go to sleep, and then post the next one at like 9 p.m. And so eventually I got to a point where I realized that was actually hurting me and I fixed that. That's kind of the rule now, to make it one per day. It's also important to mention that I was rocking some significantly cooler outfits back then, so I definitely got to get back to that soon too. One thing that's really out of order and that I still don't understand my thought process on till this day is that I'd pretty much started the storyboards before I had concrete character designs, which doesn't make sense to me. I had gotten the character sheets done around day 70, which is before the storyboards were done, but also way after they were started. There were definitely sections done with those characters far before their sheets were done, so that's one thing I would never, do in future production, because you can utilize even the smallest parts of a character design in your storyboards. I'll have camera angles that are based on Daedalus's hat or something that just wouldn't be there without it. And especially the location designs, more specifically, those didn't get done until some of them even recently, and yet their storyboards had sketches that just didn't make sense. April 1st though, we got to day 100, and that was the first real massive, milestone that we had reached. And that's when I had first announced that I would be voicing Zim with some really questionable test lines. I'll give you a quick comparison as to what I showed then versus kind of what's going on now. Well, the good thing is, even with 30%, 150 gold is plenty to buy a few big ships. Well, with this hat guy's contract, even just 30% is 150 gold. That's plenty to buy a few big ships. And just overall, there's a nice improvement there. And of course, as we're working on specific sections, there are always things that can be re-recorded, as with any character. So it seems like day 134 was the one where the daily streak finally ended, and after that, there was a significant gap. It was only about a little over a week, but it was still the start of that kind of downfall. And pretty much from then up until when we were already starting to work on the first teaser trailer, it was just about radio silence, with a little bit in the Discord, but when it came to shorts, just about nothing. The reason for that is a large combination of things. The main one being it had become a little bit not just overwhelming, but also to me at the time pointless to spend so much time working on content rather than the actual episode itself. And eventually, as of course you can see now that I am, for a couple of months now back to making sure it is daily, it definitely is worth it. I have made that realization, not only because that's kind of the whole idea of the project, but also because to have any sort of success with this first episode, the more people watching, the better. Why would I not be constantly doing the at least small kind of advertising that I can with this, as well as just showing you guys who have been here for so long what's kind of going on and giving you guys the updates that you deserve. And I've also realized that it really isn't that much of a hassle as long as I'm spending the entire day thinking about what the video will be later on, which is something I'll think about if I'm out eating dinner or walking around a store. It doesn't matter, but it is the way to make it work, where I'm constantly thinking about, all right, what can I do for this video, or what's going to be in this video? And while there's still going to be some occasionally that aren't like progress based, where I'm kind of just talking about something with the series in general, it's at least something for you guys to be able to watch, and more importantly, get new people. But June 21st came back with something special. See, in that time, I had gotten one of the very, very crucial pieces to this puzzle. A composer, the absolute legend, Mr. Twist, or Isaac Wilson, created a fan-made theme, literally just for fun, by kind of looking at the shorts that I had made and listening to what the episode was supposed to be, and taking just a guess as to what the theme for that would sound like. And the second that I heard that and knew that someone was willing to, I knew that that was going to be something just very positive. And soon after, we had something very similar to that first track, but also trimmed down and cleaned up to fit the character. But it eventually became Hat Guy's theme, Regrowth, the very first track that you guys heard. And that became the original backing track for the shorts. But eventually, we finally got there. October 22nd, we got our first teaser trailer released. And looking back on that, it's still one of the scenes where I'm just really happy with the visuals and how it flows. And while that one actually ends up being almost 2 minutes long, the entire scene ended up getting trimmed in a future video to about a minute long, and it just flows so much better. That's kind of the one that I'm talking about when I think of a good version of that scene. It's not really the one that's in the teaser trailer, but regardless, when it comes to what'll actually be in the first episode, that's scene 1, because that's what it is. It's the opening scene of the episode. The final product is something that I am really happy with, and I don't think without uploading it as a trailer, I actually would have gotten the feedback that I needed to make it that way. After that, I started focusing on scene 2. At the time, I was going to go in a chronological order. Since then, it's gone way all over the place. I've started working on tons of different stuff, but that was pretty much all that was done for that time. Just that teaser trailer, and then I pretty much just exploded into production with tons and tons of different stuff going all over the episode. And about towards the end of November, that's when we made the decision, hey, scene 10 we're going to do as the second teaser trailer. At that point, we had Percy casted, of course, me as Zim. So if I wanted anything done by the end of the year, which was kind of what I was hoping for, another teaser around Christmas, that would have to be either without dialogue like the first one, which I wanted to avoid, or something that was just Zim and Percy, because at this point it was still in the very early stages, I'm pretty sure, of casting Daedalus. I'm 90% certain we didn't have someone quite yet, and then 100% certain we didn't have Romanus either. When it came to the main characters, we had to be really specific with who we chose and what scene we chose for this. So scene 10 was a very small one and was the perfect choice for it. The start of December is just around when we started animating that, and while that's probably the one I would say motion-wise I'm the least happy with, it's also one of the ones that's the most dialogue-centered, so I was pretty much fine to have that. I just wish I would have chose some better camera angles. But a massive thank you to Garen Seho, the voice of Percy. He did a fantastic job, especially with this teaser trailer here, where it's a much more slowed down section of the episode where there's not too much going on. It's a very casual conversation. One of the only ones where it's just Percy and Zim, and he just did an amazing job bringing the correct tone and just feeling for the whole scene. It really gives everything a nice ambience of just two people talking on a ship at night. The one thing I have to bring up again is that between the point of the last teaser trailer and now, it once again wasn't daily uploads. It was some periods where it was, and then some inconsistent periods where there was a couple of just random ones, but it definitely was not daily. And as much as I would have liked to have this be the point where it started again, it wasn't until about 15, I think 16 days after that where I finally got back to daily, and it's been like that since. But after that second teaser trailer and planning for the full trailer, it dawned on me how important it was to make sure as soon as possible that casting was over and done with, at least for these crucial main characters. Everything extra could be done along the way as needed, but for these main ones, I needed to have them done as soon as possible. And so that was one of the first things that I really shifted my focus to. Not too soon after, I was able to cast all of the remaining crucial main important characters. And so yes, with this full trailer on March 31st, you guys will indeed be hearing at least a line from everyone that you've been seeing on these character sheets plastered in all the shorts. Pretty much from then till now, it's just been a process of working on a couple of different scenes, the first one being scene 4 that we really hard focused on, and after that just kind of random ones all around this trailer, which is pretty much doing everything that we need to get to this trailer. And while right now there's actually a little bit less done than I'd like, there's also far more done than I'd expect when it comes to the rest of the episode that isn't included with this. I ended up just doing a lot more planning in that time, as well as just trying to get a really good skeleton of the episode that we can kind of drop the finished product into place on. Essentially animatics for everything, and as cleaned up of ones as we can get. But now we are finally at day 200 of these shorts, and it's crazy to finally see that, because while it's not exactly a marker of time in that sense, like it was previously, it stands to show that even though I wasn't able to exactly keep up with the pace that I had before in terms of videos, we still indeed made it. 11 months ago, at this point, that was when the 100 days video was posted, and regardless of what's happened between then and now, there's still that 200 one. And far more importantly, this episode's still coming out. December 24th, that is, which I am just beyond excited for. I really think that, especially all of you who have been watching this along the way, are really going to like it. I go through some periods where I am or am not as confident on how the episode will do, but I just always end up going back to realizing, yeah, as long as I continue to think about this the way that I have, take the critiques that I need to, of course take all of them into consideration heavily, think of everything that could be wrong with the episode, think of everything I could fix, think of everything that's good, everything that could be improved on, and just continue working at it. Because realistically, in my basement, that is the best that I can do. One of the most important things to me that I've stated quite a few times along the way has been that the more information that you have, the better that you can do. The more that I learn, the better that this is going to be. And I'll look back at shorts from a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, or even a couple weeks ago and go, what was I thinking? How did I not understand that, this is the better way to do this? Why was I shading random lines onto things instead of just thinking of the direction and the details that should be there? Why was I moving a PNG across the screen like One Punch Man Season 3? Important questions. So, after 200 days, what now is the plan? Well, of course, first and foremost, finishing up the full trailer for March 31st, where we'll be showing the full cast, at least for the main characters, as well as, of course, your first bits of animation for a few of the characters that you haven't seen yet. Nice and fully composited, getting to see some of these people you've only seen in character sheets actually in action, as well as actually showing an idea of the story. And while most of you who have touched into the Discord or looked at the website in any sort of way are going to be able to read the synopsis, that's kind of the entire idea of the trailer, is to show that in the simplest and most engaging way possible. And so pretty much that's what I'm trying to do with this. And then on top of that, introduce a few of the story beats that I really haven't gotten into, mostly regarding things around the flashback sections. Also, one of the most important pieces to this will be the first idea of what the 7th Sea is for you guys, and it's pretty much the only one that you're going to get in the entirety of this first episode. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. We don't really delve too far deep into the idea of the 7th Sea. It's more so what the characters are doing within this first episode, but there is some discussion around it, and that's exactly what you're going to be seeing within this trailer. And you guys can start to think of why the entire series is named after one location. If you guys at all want to support the series in any way, one of the biggest helps is literally just looking at some of the other videos, especially checking out the teaser trailers and that full trailer once we release it March 31st, but also for those legends who go above and beyond. There's also the 7sea.com/store, where we actually have a couple of new releases, my favorite of which definitely being the contract long sleeve. And while it's not the one I have on right now, it'd just be because I like long sleeves, I'm a big fan of the more simple designs on the front and more complex ones on the back. But of course, there's also the 7th Sea hats, along with a bunch of others. We'll even be bringing back the limited time Hat Guy hoodie once we release the full trailer at the end of March. And with this hat here, one might say that I look pretty stylish, so maybe you want to check them out. And of course, there's also a Discord for anyone who might want to interact a little bit more with the community or just hear some more about the actual episode and production itself. That'll be linked in the description along with everything else. But a huge thank you to all of you. You guys have made this all possible. None of this would have been something I could have even started, kind of climbed the steps of without making this and having people watch it. It had literally been like 5 years with this idea of the 7C in my head and not really being able to do anything about it because I just didn't know what. And just literally posting about it, hearing your guys' responses, and having people reach out to me have been the key steps in making my dream a reality. So thank you all. I appreciate you taking the time to listen, and I will see you guys in the next one.